We have a very interesting session indeed, and I hope all of you will enjoy it. I have with me, so the title of this session is The Role of Pharmacovigilance in Supporting Patient Safety, and I have three eminent speakers, starting with Dr. Michelle GEBARA, and Dr. YASMINE FEKRY, and Dr. Mary Ibrahim. Unfortunately, Dr. Mary Ibrahim felt sick today, and she will not be able to join us, so hope she will get better soon. We will try to, also try to find some ways to show you the importance of pharmacovigilance in securing the public safety, not only the patient safety, because pharmacovigilance is based on individuals, not public. But we are trying to do something different in this session. We will try also to see how we could involve the patients in different pharmacovigilance activities. And starting with our first speaker, Dr. Michelle GEBARA. She's the patient safety lead for UAE and Gulf countries at Roche Pharmaceuticals. Dr. Michelle holds a doctorate of pharmacy degree from the St. Joseph University of Beirut, Lebanon. And throughout her journey in diverse regional and global pharmacovigilance roles with multinational pharmaceutical companies, she developed and enriched her passion for patient safety through multidisciplinary, innovative, and patient-centric approaches. I would like to welcome her on the stage, and Dr. Michelle will hopefully talk about embracing patient centricity in pharmacovigilance. Welcome, Dr. Michelle. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, they did. I didn't.
Thank you, Dr. Manal, for the introduction. My name is Michelle GEBARA. I am the patient safety lead for UAE and Gulf countries at Roche. And it's my pleasure to be here today to talk about a topic that is very dear to my heart, a topic actually that is at the core of our common mission, embracing patient centricity in pharmacovigilance. Well, in a world where the medication can heal and harm, the role of pharmacovigilance has never been that crucial. So my presentation today is nothing but an eye-opener, a reflection on how our role is beyond an obligation, how our role is to actually safeguard the health and well-being of those who entrust their lives into the medication that we are overseeing, those who are actually the reason we go to work every day, patients. So, quick disclaimer just before I start that the views expressed in this presentation are my personal views and opinion and does not reflect necessarily Roche Pharmaceuticals' view. Today we will start by introducing patient centricity, defining patient centricity literally and in the pharma organization. We will then remember together how we moved from a pharmacovigilance role to an actual patient safety and patient-centric role, how and why we moved to this. We will also explore together the drug safety trends and the drug safety regulation which shaped the patient-centric approaches by giving as well examples on successful patient-centric approaches among the pharma organization and the pharma companies to then conclude our presentation with a call for action to everyone. Now, what is patient centricity? Patient centricity is an approach to healthcare that places the patient's needs, preferences, and experiences at the center of a decision-making and a care delivery. Now, what is patient centricity in the pharma industry? 134 million is the number of adverse events that occurs due to unsafe care in hospitals in the low and middle income countries. These contributed to 2.6 million deaths annually. 1 over 10 patients in even high-income countries is harmed while receiving hospital care. Now, these alarming numbers published by the WHO are the reason why patient centricity has become an acknowledged hallmark in not only high-quality healthcare, but also high-quality drug development. So the pharma organization and pharmaceutical companies as a whole are now actively seeking to be more patient-centric, to look into the patients more and more in the drug research and also in the drug development. WHO has published the Patient Safety Rights Charter, and this was in the context of the Patient Safety Day last year. The theme of this day was actually by itself patient-centric, with the title, Engaging Patients for Patient Safety. And the slogan was about elevating the voice of patients. So this charter just outlines the patient's rights among or in the context of patient safety. And we can clearly see that among these rights, 4 are highlighting the obligation to engage patient and to hear the patient's voice. The right to be respected with confidentiality, the right to be informed, the right to be heard, and the right to be engaged. So we can clearly see that beyond being an obligation, beyond being a responsibility, patient centricity is actually a right. But whose responsibility is to safeguard patient safety and the patient-centric PV? Well, safety is a common responsibility and a shared responsibility. Now, a patient-centric PV is even and definitely a common responsibility and a shared responsibility. It starts with the pharma industry, the pharma companies having a robust PV system, being able to detect, manage adverse events, to report adverse events, to the regulatory bodies, also behind regulation, behind the assessment and the supervision of this safety data. It's also in the hands of HCPs, and definitely HCPs are the ones who diagnose, prescribe, care, and report adverse events. But what is also important is that it comes in the hands of patients. Patients, they have this increasingly active role and this determining role in the treatment success. Patients are the ones that are more impacted, the most impacted by the safety information itself. And also, they are the primary source of this safety information. So the safety information is coming from patients, which makes them a part of this shared responsibility. Now, all other stakeholders that we mentioned, they have an obligation to recognize that the patients are at the center of safety. Let's remember together the PV timeline. The drive to patient safety started with the thalidomide crisis that we all already know about in the 1960s or even before. And this step of history was behind starting to shape the adverse event reporting requirements across the globe. We started to see emerging PV functions in the pharma companies. Then we started to shift towards a separate cost center model. We started to see additional and more safety guidelines and legislation to, at the end, 2020, the turning point and the change in the ecosystem, this rapid and quick change in the ecosystem with the COVID-19 pandemic and the development of the COVID vaccine, which were the catalyst of this evolution of the patient safety. We're going through a future, the future of pharmacovigilance. We're going to a function that is actually beyond compliance, beyond just meeting the regulatory requirements. We are now focusing more on the patient, on contributing to value solution, to giving value to the solution that we're presenting to the patient and to the HCPs in general. We are now having this proactive approach with a critical assessment of the information that we are gathering from the patient and that we are giving to the patient. The patient, and why is that? Because patients has now increasing role and active role in the access to the information. So patients are now accessing the information a lot easier. They are empowered, they have safety needs, and it's our job to respond to their safety needs. What are the drug safety trends and the drug safety regulation that has shaped the patient-centric approaches? Now, in the recent year, there were many regulatory guidelines and many initiatives that have emerged and that have effectively expanded the ability for drug safety departments in the companies to understand the patient safety need. It's all around the actual PV activities and the actual PV obligations in the pharma companies, including adverse events reporting, benefit risk assessment, risk management and minimization communication. We're going a lot back in time, maybe to start with the adverse event reporting with the implementation of the EU PV legislation, for example, in 2012, where the direct reporting from patient was expanded across the EU. Next, with the EMA guideline and the GVP Module 6, where there was this obligation on the pharma companies to start monitoring and screening the websites and the digital platforms for adverse event report. Also, when we come to the FDA guidelines and the the ICH requirements for registrations, where there is this obligations on the sponsor to look into the patient data engagement and the patient data preferences while developing the product in the labeling and in the actually in the submission of the filing and the filing the product. When it comes to risk management and risk minimization and communication with the EMA good practice guidance on the risk minimization and prevention for medication errors and the EMA guideline on GVP Module 16, which actually give the sponsors or the pharma companies as well the obligation to look into the patient's input while developing and creating the risk minimization measure. And I guess we'll be speaking in details about the risk minimization measure and the patient centricity of the risk minimization measures in the next session with Dr. YASMINE. Now, again, the patient involvement in the development of regulation and safe use of medicine was the science position with the publication in 2022, and we quote exactly that only patients can meaningfully contribute their preferences, concern, understandings, and lived experiences of a medical condition to improve medicine development and use. Now, these regulatory guidances and initiatives have shaped and changed the PV role and the PV function. And patient and pharma organizations nowadays are looking into being more patient-centered, having a more patient-centered culture, while deploying a framework-driven approach to be able to guide patient engagement activities, while also demonstrating a proficiency in the patient-centered competencies and when they do patient engagement activities, when they communicate the risk to patient, and when they assess the patient preferences. Let's look together to the actual patient journey, and let's see how the patient is actually engaging with drug safety and for drug safety function along his patient journey or his journey while taking the medication. Well, it starts with the patient experiencing symptoms and then seeking medical care, then receiving diagnosis. And here at this point, when we have the treatment selection, the patients can start providing input on the label presentation, for example, on the benefit risk data presentation, on the benefit risk profile of the product. Then learning how this medicinal product is taken safely and appropriately. Patients as well are participating in the human factor testing of this product or the device he's using. Patients are providing as well input on the type of additional risk minimization measures, as we said, and they are also participating in the piloting phase and in the effectiveness measure and the effectiveness checks of these materials. Most importantly, the reporting of adverse event will also be among this journey while the patient is taking the drug and when his HCP is evaluating whether this is working or not for him. So the report of adverse event will come from the patient. Patients will be themselves participating in the past studies, in the post-authorization safety studies, at the long-term product safety. Now, maybe some example, just to give us and to have this reflection on some example where we can enhance the patient engagement in our day-to-day work. As we said, adverse event reporting. But how do we do it and how do we enhance patient engagement is actually by encouraging patients to report adverse events when we offer like accessible, convenient, and patient-friendly platforms. Now moving to gathering the patient's feedback, gathering the patient's insight. This is a very important point for patient centricity because now we're listening to the voice of patient. And we're involving them. We're even involving them in the drafting of the product information or the product label. And this will actually improve the relevance of the content of this label. Now, maybe when we talk about patient engagement, we just need to mention, and we have to mention the patient advocacy group everywhere in the world, and more being engaged with the patients. Now, engaging as a pharma organization with the patient advocacy group will provide us access to provide and to have diverse and many patients' perspective, and will be supporting this effort to improve medication safety by collaborating with the patient empowerment group. We're empowering patients and we're listening again to their voices. Another example is the inclusion in the regulatory processes, just giving a seat at the table for the patient to be participating, for example, in the scientific and decision-making committees when it comes to the medicine regulations at some aspects, definitely not everything. When we are doing that, actually, we are responding to the unmet safety needs of the patient, and here is where we need to take part of the patient journey and to understand this journey, to optimize it, to be able to listen to the patient's insights, right from the design of any patient-directed material, and to proactively come to this patient with solutions and to cover this unmet safety needs. Maybe another example, and here it cannot go without mentioning the importance of going to the patient with awareness, with using many channels, the channels that are offered to us, or even creating additional channels just to raise awareness, to speak about pharmacovigilance out loud and to encourage reporting. Another way is to, as we said in the beginning, and I hoped we had Dr. Marie in the last session to talk about the involvement of patients in the early phases and before even the medication is at the market. And last but not least, digitalization. With this expansion that we will have to patients, more accessibility to patients, and the opportunities for us to co-create digital solutions that can not only deliver ecosystem value, but also patient value. I'm sure many examples can come from many companies, many things that we're doing at a day-to-day basis. It's a responsibility, and it's nowadays the way we're shifting our work. But this cannot come without some challenges and some considerations. Definitely, the first thing we think of is data quality and privacy, making sure that we're respecting the privacy of the patient, and we are adhering actually to the data privacy law and to the local data protection regulations in the country. Sometimes the adverse event reports we receive from patients are like an informal matter, so it's important for us to have like advanced data validation technique and verification technique to make sure that we are validating the information that is provided by the patient from many different sources. And lastly, we're dealing with patient's material and tailoring this patient material to the culture and to being inclusive and sensitive when it comes to anything directed to the patient is one of the points to be considered. I'm skipping, maybe we're coming to the end of my presentation. We have seen how it's our duty to prioritize patients' well-being by acknowledging that the patient centricity is what we do, by adopting patient-centric approaches. As I said, many examples can come from many companies. We are now reshaping the standard of care. We are emphasizing on the importance of patient engagement and of being a partner with the patients because we're working for them. So to conclude, let us maybe not only acknowledge the importance of patient centricity, but commit to it in our day-to-day work, in every aspect of our work. Patient centricity is not just a buzzword or a theory. It's actually right, as we saw. It's our responsibility, and it's also our commitment. Thank you.
Hi again. Thank you so much, Dr. Michelle. Very interesting topic. Our next speaker is one of my dearest friends, Dr. YASMINE FEKRY, and thank you for accepting the invitation to present today. She will present to us patient materials, enhancing risk minimization strategy. Bearing in mind that Dr. YASMINE holds a Bachelor of Pharmaceutical Sciences from Alexandria University and holds over 15 years of experience in quality and pharmacovigilance. Her track record shows commitment to ensuring the safety and efficacy of pharmaceutical products, coupled with a passion for maintaining the highest standards in the industry. welcome Dr. YASMINE. Yeah, she's already here. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So thank you so much, Dr. Manel, for this kind invitation. And I was telling my friends here that I'm conquering my fears because it's my first time to be on stage for a presentation. So I hope we will be having a good time together. So, and really what makes me very motivated to be with you here today is how it's a very interesting topic and close to my heart. And thank you, Michelle, for raising the bar about the patient centricity. It was very, very nice presentation. Thank you so much. So today I'm representing Sanofi. So this is a Sanofi slides with some examples from Sanofi. And we're talking about the patient material and how we could be using the patient materials in enhancing the risk minimization strategies. So first, let me take you through what we will be discussing today. So overview, so what we will be discussing today is what is the risk management and what are the RMP and ARMMs, or the additional risk minimization measures. What are the patient's additional risk minimization measures, real examples of patient's risk minimization measures, and how we grow the reach in the patient's community. So to start with, risk management is crucial in the pharmaceutical industry to make sure of the safe dispensing and prescribing of the medications. And by assessing and mitigating the risks, we aim to achieve a favorable balance between benefits and risks. And when we talk about risk minimization measures, we contribute to the safe and appropriate prescribing of medications by HCPs, as well the safe use of medications, as well it's the continuous characterization of all risks related to the product, and to make sure that we are controlling the risk and to make a balanced risk-benefit balance. So when we're talking about the document, which is the risk management plan, so it's a dynamic document applicable throughout the life cycle of the product. It's focusing on the safety concerns and the regulatory compliance as well. So it's a document submitted to the regulatory health authorities, emphasizing the assessment and mitigating risks and maximize the product's benefit while minimizing the potential harm related to the product. So when we're talking about the risk minimization measure, so it's essential to consider the both routine and additional risk minimization measures. So when we're talking about the routine risk minimization measures, we're here considering the product information, which is the SMPC, or patient insert leaflet. We're talking about the pack size and design and the legal status of the product that it's distributed in the market. When we're talking about the additional risk minimization measure, we're here considering more of additional tools to reach out to the patients to ensure that the patients are educated, or the patients and HCPs are educated on the use of and the risk related to the product. And here we're considering the educational programs, controlled access programs, controlled distribution system, pregnancy prevention programs, and the DHPC, the famous DHPC communications. So here, let's deep dive into patient's material. So when we develop the patient-focused material, we consider, it's crucial to consider the patient's ability, accessibility, and cultural backgrounds to effectively communicate the risks related to the product for the patients. And when we design the patient material, we're considering different approaches. So it could be a patient educational material, could be a patient card. And when we're talking about patient cards, we're here talking about having a handy tool with the patients that makes him always aware or reminded about the important critical information related to the medication or the disease. This could be alert or reminder cards, or could be a patient diary. In Sanofi, we have around 40 marketed products with ARMMs, with additional risk minimization measures, of which there are 29 products there are designs materials dedicated to patients, either patient cards, patient caregiver guides, or home infusion guides. So this as a reflection of how we are in Sanofi putting the patient in front of our eyes. So, and here, this is the very interesting part. So I'm sharing with you a real examples of patient cards that we're having currently in the market and addressed to patients. And the first example is the isatuximab or Sarclisa. So for the Sarclisa or isatuximab, it is is an anti-cancer medication. It's a class called a monoclonal antibody. And this type of products, it binds with the red blood cells that may interfere with the routine blood test, which may result in a false positive result. And this is very crucial for such patients because in these type of patients, which is the multiple myeloma or the bone marrow cancer patients, the blood transfusion is a very common practice within the disease management. So for them, it's very crucial to be aware, to be educated about the risk. So how we designed this for Sanofi? So we created this patient card. So this is a handy patient card. It should be carried with them all the time within their wallet, where first, the purpose is for them to write down, to document their information, their correct blood type profile, their treatment details when they start the treatment, and their HCP information for them to be, so they are aware of, in case of emergency, the patient or the caregiver or the blood bank HCP, they are aware that this patient correct blood profile is noted, and he is a myeloma patient, and this is a very important tool for patients, especially that this card should be with the patient at least 6 months after stopping the medication. Another example that we're having as well, it's a live patient card example, which is the Aubagio or the teriflunomide. So teriflunomide is a class of medication which is the immunosuppressants, and it's used for the treatment of multiple sclerosis. So for this class of medications, we have list of risks. So we're having the hepatic effect, hypertension, hematological effect as well. There is a potential side effect, which is the teratogenicity. So when we think in Sanofi about this class of medications, we thought about creating a patient card to keep reminding the patient about the possible side effects that could encounter with the medication, as well to keep reminding the patients or the women of the childbearing age about the potential teratogenicity effect. So the idea or the way that we thought to design this card is just a reminder for the patient and the HCP as well about the possible side effects related to the use of Aubagio. Another example of the patient cards, which for the insulin glargine. So we in Sanofi, we have two types of insulin glargines with two concentrations, which is the Lantus, which is 100 units per ml, and Toujeo, which is 300 units per ml. So for patients, they might be confused that they can use this kind of switch between Lantus and Toujeo, which could not be the case because they are not interchangeable, and switch cannot be done without titrating the dose. So we create this educational material in order to educate the patient that they are not interchangeable. You cannot switch the dose without going back to your HCP. We have efforts in Sanofi in order to make sure that we're trying to grow the reach in the patient's community. And first attempt that we're having, or the first, not first, but now it is the shift to digitalization where we're having the electronic patient information. So electronic patient information, it's now the shift of the pharmaceutical industry to move to an accessible a QR code, or the patient insert leaflet to be accessible, the QR code or a web address where all the information related to the product will be accessible via this QR code or web address. With that, we will be benefiting from having an accelerated and updated information related to the product that will be handy in front of handy with the patients or the HCP. As well, we will be putting the additional risk minimization measures as part of this package, which is the API, which will definitely improve the coverage of the distribution of the additional risk minimization measures. As well, it will enable the patient to report side effects to the health authority, the National Health Authority, and as well it would give access for patients to know more about the medication in case they want to know more through the medical information. In Sanofi now, we're having two products. We're having two examples where we are implementing the API the API, which is the Zempozyme, which is already registered now in the region, and we're having Enjamo still not yet registered. The other example, which is really very close to my heart and reflects how we as MAH and health authorities are really working hand to hand to improve the coverage of the educational material. So this is an example of, and since we're in Dr. Manal's session, this is an example of a real collaboration between the health authority and Sanofi, based on our request to post the educational material related to Duptepakin on the website of the health authority, which was really a very nice example to show how we as MAH and health authorities are working hand to hand to improve the coverage and to empower the patients to be aware about the risks of their products. And just as well to highlight that this example we had the same effort in Oman. So in Oman and Iraq, we did the same, and it was very nice, I would say, effort. So just to conclude, in Sanofi, we believe that the role of the patient is a paramount in our journey. And just to share with you that we in Sanofi just recently, last year, we changed the name of Sanofi of the functions from Global Pharmacovigilance to Global Patient Safety and Pharmacovigilance. And this is really to reflect how we as an organization in Sanofi, we are empowering the patients through our aim to integrate more with the patients through education, through awareness, because we believe that this is our mission as a pharmaceutical industry. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yasmin. Okay, now where's Dr. Michel? Yalla, let's join together for the panel discussion and for any questions. Thank you so much again for joining us, and pleased to have this panel discussion and the Q&A session. I feel like this is the chair of confession, so you can ask anything, ask us anything, and let's see. So, just. Yeah, okay.
Hello?
Dr. Haya.
Sorry, may I start? It's me over here.
Okay, so
Hello?
after, then Dr. Haya. Yeah, it's okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's way after morning. Thank you very much for the amazing presentations. They were really, really helpful. Concerning risk management plans, we're facing issues concerning regional requirements. We have products that in one country they're requesting DHPC, and in another they need other additional risk minimization measures. How is that usually handled when it comes to giving a version number to their risk management plan? This is my first question. And is it okay to specify the name of the country with the version number? Because you might have more than one, and one country might not accept the risk minimization measures of the other. The other question is concerning the risk minimization measurement of the effectiveness. It's a common problem. We have a problem in assessing how effective the risk minimization measures are due to a presence of different audience. Let's say when we send a patient card, it's different than the healthcare provider guide, and we have our sales, and there's a lot of information that should come into this assessment. So is there some kind of specific procedure or measures? Yes. And a third question, may I? I'm sorry, this is on behalf.
Go ahead.
A lot of questions on risk minimization measures. We are also, how are you usually handling the resistance of healthcare providers, because they're very often hesitant in the region when it comes to distribute to their patients?
Yes.
Yes. So how do you encourage them? Because effectiveness cannot be measured based on healthcare providers alone. Know how far we're going with the patient information distribution as well.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was
Thank
too
you so
much.
much. So it's all to you.
It's all to me.
right? You are asking YASMINE, right?
Yeah, seriously? Okay. No, I thought because the first one, so I thought it's a regulatory topic. Okay. So yes, what was?
So the first one, different version and request from different regulatory
Okay.
authorities.
Yes. So for the first question with the different versions, so because we are, I would say, a global MH, so we are referring to the risk management activities or risk management plan and the approved ARMMs, which is approved at the EU or the country of origin. So for us, we have one reference that it's implemented across the globe. So sometimes we're receiving comments from the health authority. It's a negotiation discussion. I mean, and this is the beauty of having this, I would say, the very knowledgeable officials at the MOH, and this is really what we are proud of, and I'm proud of being part of seeing the evolution of the pharmacovigilance in the region. So we're having very knowledgeable, understanding heads of PV where they open channels of discussion. So when we're receiving the ARMM package and we send it to them, usually sometimes there comes some kind of questions or discussions. We never saw resistance or challenge when it comes to versioning, for instance. But I can say that sometimes, or it happens once, that a health authority is saying, no, I do not see it requested for now, or we are seeing that it is not of real value. And then we stop because we see that they might have their point of view. But usually when it comes to the ARMM's versioning, approval, the process, I might say there is one challenge, but I understand it, which is the long time to receive the approval. This might be a challenge, and I think this is the right forum that we might be like asking you as an officials to try to shorten the approval time, because for us it is really critical to get this medication, this ARMMs implemented. Other than that, I cannot see or mention or remember any challenging related to the versioning of the ARMMs approved.
It's the risk management plan.
I get your point.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I get your
let's say
point.
in KSA, we have a DHPC, while in Jordan, we have a patient guide and an HCP guide. I can't have two, how can I reference them back to, still have control?
Yes. So I got your point now. For the risk management plan, actually in some countries like Oman and Iraq, they are requesting when you are submitting, when there is an update in the risk management plan, we are requested to always submit the RMP updates. So we have in this region some countries where there is we have this practice of submitting the updates. For other countries, we don't submit updates. But back to your question, in case that we're having a DHPC submitted, but there is no reference in the already submitted RMP, so they cannot see that there is a reference or a link, I believe that submitting the new updated RMP will solve the issue. So we did not really as well have a challenge when it comes that I'm submitting a DHPC related to an additional risk minimization measure, not referred in the old RMP. This is the question, right? So what I want to say that if it is not referred in the old RMP, so the solution is to submit the new RMP, because we will not submit an additional risk minimization measure without being approved in the updated RMP.
Yes. May I give you an example? Let's say for rivaroxaban in KSA, Saudi FDA is requesting DHPC. While in Jordan, there's more. There is a patient card and a guide. So this is what the Saudi FDA has requested, while Jordan has requested something else, and as additional risk minimization measures. So I can't put both in the same risk management plan or have the same risk management plan approved in both countries. Have you ever faced a case like that?
Maybe if I can comment on this, I'm not sure if I understood your point well, but it will always depend on the regulation, actually. If in the country they just ask for the updated RMP global or EU RMP, then we go ahead and submit the global or EU RMP as it is. And while other countries, they look into local RMPs, and here where we need to reflect the local change or the local requirement, local RMM, local GHPC in this specific country, which I see your point, might not have been reflected in other RMPs in the other region, but this depends on the regulation itself, because it was not actually from the beginning requested by the country. So actually looking into the local regulation, either we need a local RMP or not, can probably reflect the particularity of this country. When it comes to creating a local RMP referenced or referencing the global RMP, then you have the global or the EU RMP across all the countries submitted everywhere, and we have some of the countries. I recall when I used to handle Egypt, there was a local RMP to be there that can have a different version, but always linked to the parent. I mean, to the global RMP, and it specifies that for Egypt, for example, there is this additional risk minimization measure for this product. There is this DHPC, which is particular to Egypt.
Yeah, we will take another question and then come back to other questions. So, Dr. Haya, yes, please.
Thank you for these presentations. First, I want to thank Michelle. It's a very interesting presentation, actually, and so Dr. Yasmine. My question for Dr. Yasmine about the electronic measures. Do you think that in some countries, culturally, the electronic maybe distribution for the patient cards or guides, maybe it's not applicable? For example, in Jordan, we don't accept the electronic because we don't have this culture, we don't have the mailing communication paths. So even for healthcare professionals, the materials should be printed and distributed as paper forms. So in your presentation, the electronic forms replacing the paper forms or in addition to?
For Jordan, so far, we're mainly counting on the paper forms. So because and the distribution is done through the HCP. So we're mainly, again, and this is what I refer to my presentation, that for each country or for which we come with the risk minimization measure cannot be done by PV only. It is a cross-functional, I would say, a cross-functional responsibility. I will not say it's a homework, but I would say it's a responsibility, because we work with the medical, with the sales, with the commercial teams, PV, regulatory. So it's the full, I would say, full team is working and trying to design what is the best way to reach out the patient. So for Jordan, for instance, we know that the culture there works more for paper format. Sometimes it tends to be like when we're talking about a couple of patients, because here, for my examples, for instance, we're talking about a very selective number of patients with a certain KOLs. For that, so we can educate the HCP, we can send it via email or digital way. But for others with the mass, for the PAKIN, for instance, we tend to print the educational cards and replenish the stocks whenever it finishes. So I would say that it depends on how, again, the culture, the background of the patients, how the team at the ground, the commercial team, sees the right way to reach out the patients through the HCPs. So it's flexible, and this is how I see it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Doctor, I want to make a comment for Dr. Hiba's question regarding the RMP's version. Now, if in Saudi FDA, for example, the requirements are different from Jordan FDA, so she can make like a national display. For example, for Saudi, she can make a national display as we are the country of origin for her company. Adding, for example, if they have extra requirements, so she can make this national requirements as annexes or something like that. So there is no problem if she can make more than one version for the risk management plan based on the requirements of the country. Now, generally, again, like Dr. Michelle mentioned, depends on the regulations. For example, in Jordan, what is required from the generic products is to be strict as the originator, unless they have their own studies, they have their own evaluation for the need of additional risk minimization measures.
Thank you, Dr. Haya. So, coming back to your second question, regarding the effectiveness measures. This is
This is a hot topic.
Yeah.
So, yes, so the effectiveness, we at Sanofi, we are performing the global PAS studies. So we measure the effectiveness of the measurement, the effectiveness of the additional risk minimization measures at the global level. And I had a discussion with Dr. Manal that when we design the protocol of the global PAS study, we look into first the countries which were first registered, the product was registered, and second was the second is the highly countries with number of patients, because to have a reliable pool of patients in order to be able to create valid data for the global PAS studies. And from these global PAS studies, we work on the versioning of the additional risk minimization measures. So when we go to the RMP, we can find that this is the first version of the RMP, and it was updated based on the patient and health authority feedback for the first version. So we're considering the different surveys or the feedbacks coming from patient and HCPs. So yes, we measure it. Yes, we do global PAS studies in order to make sure that what we communicate is effectively used and absorbed by the patients.
So thank you. Taking another question, and we will go back again to your third question. So yes, please.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Ahlan.
My name is Amira. I'm a Pharmacovigilance and QA in Sobi, Swedish Orphan Biovitrum here in Dubai. First of all, thank you very much for the very engaging presentation, Dr. Yasmine. My question is very much related to the EPI, the digitalization. You mentioned that pharmaceutical companies nowadays are shifting to the digitalization, but I'm just wondering what is the impact of this shift from the conventional ARMM to the digitalization? What is the impact of this to the patient nowadays? And the second question is, we understand that the distribution of these QR codes, if I may say, are a cross-functional task within the company. But the second question that I have is, what and how do you oversight in PV the distribution of these QR codes?
So the question for the API, right?
Yes.
So the API, yes. So the API now, and this is, I would say, a new era of for the product leaflet of how we reach out the patient. So it's still, we are in the, I would say, evolution phase, that we are working with, what I know, that we are working with different pharmaceutical organizations as well with different health authorities in order to see how to embrace the API as a new tool for the pharmaceutical dispensing, because we're not talking here about PV only. We're talking about the regulatory department, the updated leaflets, the updated materials, the SMPCs. So it's a new shift. It's not something that we're ready. I am myself ready yet to talk thoroughly about. We in Sanofi, with the number of SKUs that we're having, we're just trying now with 2. So the aim of the API is now we as a pharmaceutical industry to co-op with the digitalization and how to as well make ourselves talking the same language of the community and having our patient insert leaflets on the mobiles with the scanning of the QR code. So does this answer the question?
Yes, thank you. The second question that I have is that, how do you effectively oversight the distribution of these QR codes as a PV?
Yet we're having the first product, as I said, we have only one first product, which is the Zempozyme, so where it is registered. We did not yet start the risk management activities, but definitely there might be, and this is something that we're discussing in the background, how we can make sure that we are having a kind of an overview tracking of the dissemination of these ARMMs. So again, at this stage, if we're talking about today, so we're tracking the dissemination of the ARMMs at the HCP level. We don't track at the patient level. So we're making sure that we are educating the patient, the HCP. The HCP is aware and informed, and he is consenting somehow that he will be distributing this. So it will be the same, but yet we are at the phase of trying to do this kind of practical understanding and approach of how we can track the new way of API.
Yes, thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much. We have a question here, the last question. So what about the patient resistance and hesitancy? How do you overcome this? Yeah, this is the question. This is the last question that we... So healthcare provider resistance,
yes.
not the...
So I wouldn't say, again, I'm not a customer facing with HCPs. So I'm just giving feedback from our medical team or our sales team. So we don't see resistance from HCPs to receive educational materials because they understand that this is a responsibility that they have, and they are well, I would say, understanding. I would say the resistance from the HCPs to report, but for them to be educated, to be aware, and to make sure that they are, because for them, at the end, it's the liability of the HCP. I don't see resistance in getting the risk management activity.
Yeah, I think this is a good area for research as well. Maybe we can do something like that, yeah, in different countries. Thank you so much. Yeah, yes,
if I may add maybe one thing to this point, it always depends on the way we are delivering the message and the way we're shaping our risk minimization measure, and to whom we are targeting and what is the actual safety need that we are targeting. So the more we are presenting a need for the HCP and the patient, the more it's receptive by our audience. This is one. And two, maybe here to highlight as well the importance of partnering with the regulatory bodies when it comes to awareness sessions, when it comes to putting or saying out loud that we are here to offer risk minimization measure for you as HCPs. So we are backed up by regulators, we are backed up by regulatory bodies. So the mindset is kind of shifted at the level of HCPs and at the end at the level of patient. So this was just a point to add.
Yes.
A comment as well, and with the presence of Dr. Hussein and Dr. Manal and Dr. Reem. So we're having, for instance, in Saudi Arabia, there is a law that the risk management plan and if an additional risk minimization measure should be part of any roundtable discussion that it's held for HCPs. So for that, the doctors are aware and they understand what are the risk minimization measures. So I think this is as well, it will be a good effort if we're having this somehow regulated. So we're having the risk minimization activities as part of any commercial or roundtable meeting with the HCPs.
Yeah, this is a good idea as well. Thank you. So our last question.
My last question, yes. First, I would like to thank you all for your subjects that you presented today. It's all important. I have just one question for Dr. YASMINE. Regarding the patient safety card, can I ask what are the types of drugs that requires a patient safety card to be created?
I think, again, when I referred, so usually we go to the patient cards when we need this information to be handy with the patients. The patients needs to be like, again, if we refer to the Sarclisa, so this patient could be at any point of time at an emergency or something. So the people around, the caregivers of the patients or people around the patients or HCP or emergency room, they need to be aware. So this comes as, I think it comes after designing the protocol of the risk management plan, how they want to, what are I mean, it's not how we design, it's how the risk management as a whole is designed. What are the messages that we need to deliver to the patients? Is it critical to be with the patient at any point of time? Do we need to have this information always with the patient? So there are many criteria that we need to think about it when we design the additional risk minimization measure. For instance, we're having a patient diary now. What is the patient diary? Patient diary is a kind of a diary that needs to be with patients that they have administration for home infusion. So it helps the patients and the nurse or the caregiver to count down when the patient was administered the product, what did for how long, how many doses, something like that. So the idea of creating the educational material is what is the best for the patient. Do the patient want this information always handy in the wallet, or it could be an educational material at home?
Yeah.
So there are many factors when we think
Indeed.
about designing the patient card.
It's a whole story by itself. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the questions, and thank you so much for your answers and the photo. Yes, thank you.
Dr. Manal. Dr. Manal, I want just to make a small comment.
We didn't see you. We are looking for you. Yes, okay. Go ahead.
Dr. Manal.
No, it's Abdel Hadi.
Okay.
And maybe this is and we can catch up later on, okay?
Thank you very much, Michelle and Yasmine, for the exciting presentation. And I really like the quotation from Michelle's presentation about nothing about me without me. It says it all, so thank you very much. My question for Michelle is about what's your advice for the affiliates of the multinational companies? Mm-hmm. Many of us are already safety representative for multinational companies. And we have this impression that the decision-making about patient centricity is done at the headquarters, not at our affiliate. So do you have an advice for us as safety officers for multinational companies on how to implement patient centricity or to have an influence at our countries? That's one question. The second question is for Yasmine. I like the digitalization experience that you have shared. Thank you very much. And my question is about your impression or maybe some statistics about how it improved the speed of the process, the cost of the process. And did you have a kind of reports about the reach of this material to the patient, like this number of patients have been using this material or this application? Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. Actually, very interesting question, and it's what we are all thinking of with all the work we're having on a daily basis with the compliance regulatory part that we need to cover. I understand that sometimes shifting into patient centricity is time-consuming, resources-consuming, and it always comes from a global transformation. You mentioned that at the global level, Yasmine, you had this new name of patient safety transformed, and this has as well happened in Roche. So, but at a local level, even though this was not done at a global level, I guess the key to start implementing patient centricity in a PV role can start by selecting the products that are of a top priority. I know that we handled, most of us, a big portfolio. So selecting actually our top priority product, our most safety, if I can call them, safety interesting product for patients and HCPs, then we narrow down our focus and coming to understand together with our colleagues in different functions. So PV cannot work alone when you talk about patient centricity. We're working with medical, we're working with customer facing function, we're working with regulatory. So it's a cross-functional collaboration that will happen across the affiliate, across the local affiliate, I'm talking about it here, and starting to understand, like we selected the product, starting to understand the patient journey in this product, starting to understand the disease. It starts by knowing the disease, understanding the product, and then trying to find what is the safety need and the unmet safety needs for this patient, for this product. So now, regardless of what's happening at a global level, we as a local PV officer, we're just focused on this product locally and trying to find solutions that are accessible to our community. So we're responsible for UAE, for example. We know the community. We know that this is a need, this is a safety need for the product X. Then we start together with our colleague in the affiliate to try to develop targeted safety solutions. So we're now making it patient-centric. We have the patient advocacy group for some topics. We have the partnering with the authorities when it comes to awareness. So many of the solutions that we presented can start somewhere. We need to start somewhere with a cross-functional collaboration, as I mentioned, and at the end, the results will start appearing. It's not like, it's not an easy journey, but when we partner all together, I guess we will get there. It's a shift of mindset. I'm not sure if I answered.
Thank you so much.
Taking so
yes,
long.
I think she got it right. Thank you. So thanks again to all. And let's take the photo. No, please.
His second question.
So they're going to kill me, you
yes,
see?
I hear you very well, Abdelhadi. I hear where are you coming from. So yes, we're having kind of, I would say, statistics of how the HCPs are reading their emails, how many patients, because we're distributing through the MCE. So we're having these statistics of that they read their email. We're trying as much as we can to educate the HCPs. But if you're asking me today, if we are having a statistics, if the patient receive it or no, I will tell you no.
Yes, we need to work more on that.
Yes, so this is
and at all levels.
Yes, and
I
this
agree with you.
is the beauty of the API, I think, because at that point of time we will be able to have some statistics and data on how many patients are aware or they read these materials. I think this will be the best or the coming era.
Yeah, inshallah. Thank you so much again. Yes. So I would like to close this session, okay? Yes, thank you.